We'll go ahead and get started. I'm Dana Markser. I'm the founder of ayeQ, and I have Jerry Ellis with me. He's our CRO. And we're excited to share with you ayeQ. And Jerry, of course, you have lived this. Every scenario that we're going to show is near and dear to your heart. I know, mine too, on many occasions. But we're going to go through some scenarios here. We're going to orient you to what ayeQ is, why it's different. It's not just an AI agent plugged into CRM and marketing automation data. If you're trying to do that, you're probably really hurting. This is a solution to overcome the challenges that if you're going down that path, you're probably experiencing. So we're going to show a live demo on this session. The first thing that I would like to do is orient you to ayeQ. So Q, or ayeQ, is AI that's built on a reliable foundation. So if you're out there and trying to connect some of these AI tools to your data, we've missed a very key piece here, which is the AI learns off of a good revenue architecture. And so the power of Q is the fact that it runs on the ayeQ RevOps platform. And Jerry, I know that, as we've looked at folks using ayeQ, we've really done that hard part of the revenue architecture, and the answers that are coming back are surprising even me. So let's talk about what is in that revenue architecture that is powering Q. This is a little bit more detail on what you just saw. So we are consuming data across the enterprise into a unified data model. So CRM data, marketing data, customer success data, which may be CRM data, maybe financial data, maybe usage data, operational data. We're pulling in financial data, and we are consuming that data into a unified data model that represents the entire revenue architecture. So there's something really key here. It's not an analytics platform. It's not sales analytics, it's not marketing analytics. It has all of those components, but the key is this is a unified revenue model that is built on a revenue design. And so I'm sure Jerry had a podcast yesterday with someone from Winning by Design, and this is the design. This is the systematized design of your go-to-market motion, your segments, your KPIs, your targets, etc. And of course, we have all the intelligence around AI-powered forecasting, complete transparency into that forecasting. We look at our revenue targets, our actual performance to targets, our marketing contribution, our retention analytics, our capacity requirements, our spend requirements, and unify all of this into a very, very powerful engine. And so we have been working on that for years, building that ayeQ RevOps platform. And now that we've added ayeQ to that platform, the answers, because it is training on this clean, validated, governed architecture, the answers are tremendous. And we're going to walk through what some of those answers are. So we'll see your answers that come from whatever in conversation you'd like to ask, what the recommendations are. You can run scenarios. What happens if this changes? What happens if that changes? And importantly, what are the priority next steps to actually get to better outcomes? So Jerry, you've been working with this for a while. What is kind of the concept here that we think our audience needs to understand as we get into ayeQ? It's not just, hey, I'm asking ChatGPT something.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things. And first, I would start with the kind of that your data box. The reality is these different parts of the organization have different, oftentimes, 4 systems of record, if you will, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's to be able to run that business collectively across is a challenge, but there's not a single system of record for all of those that gives each one of them individually the ability to run their business, but yet it is a collective end-to-end business that they've got to run, their revenue business. And so ayeQ for years has been helping companies manage the collective flow of business, the revenue through their organization, enabling them with all the things that you talked about, understanding they have these systems of record that they do live in and run their business in, that their teams are in day to day, but being able to get on top of that across the board is huge. And so, and then Dana, that you said, I mean, there's that, you know, sitting on top of that, giving analytics and dashboards is easy, and a lot of people do that. But those things with the intelligence of measure against the plan and the realities of the plan and the model, the revenue model across the business, that's uniqueness again that ayeQ's had. And now to have this agentic go-to-market RevOps partner, ayeQ, it's just going to change the game for our customers.
Yep. Okay, well, we're going to go through 3 scenarios here. We're going to start with our annual plan. So when everybody, hey, we got a 30% growth objective from the board. How are we going to do that? Then we're going to go into the everyday management of the growth engine and how we optimize resources. And then we're going to look at, how do we prepare for that periodic board meeting that tends to be everybody's hair is on fire for a week before the board meeting. But before we do that, and we're going to get into actually live in ayeQ and asking Q questions, we're going to have a little bit of fun on this session. We're asking you as the audience to type in the chat box on your right some questions that you think will stump Q. Okay, so as we go through, you're going to see what some of these questions are, and it's going to spark, hey, a follow-on to that question might be this, or can Q answer this? And so type them into the right-hand side. We obviously won't get to everything, but let's see if we can have fun and type some of those into Q. So Jerry, our first use case is annual planning and scenario modeling. So tell us about the reality of where this starts.
Well, it's typically a top down, right? Like you said, as you were kind of launching into this, there's the you've got to grow 30% or whatever your percentage of growth is. Go figure it out, and then you get into the sharing of everybody's working in their system. So marketing saying, well, to be able to deliver 30% growth, then we've got to deliver this much. We got to invest this much from a marketing perspective. We got to deliver this much into the pipeline, based on historical conversion rates and et cetera. That's going to give you, and sales is going, well, we need to add this many territories, and so then those two go back and forth, right? They're collectively going back and forth between that effort. The budget doesn't allow for us to add as many salespeople as we think we need, so we've got to have more leads come in to support that different capacity level, and that back and forth is the typical process, right? That you go through to put those two things together. And you've got the third piece, which is the customer success, which is really the foundation that they start on typically, right? What's our retention rate going to be? And so to grow 30%, what's our real growth that we have to achieve 30% year-over-year company growth, right? Because we've got to make up for churn. So what's that number going to be? And then you get into the discussions with them. Well, what can you do to reduce that number so there's a little less burden on new business and marketing? And that's just I'm sorry to go on and on about it, Dana, but that's just the reality of that process. And they're working in their systems and they're sharing that information. And everybody has a perspective of the other business, but they don't really have that collective view. And so it's spreadsheets and BI, and it's give it to somebody else, go run some numbers, bring it back to us to have a conversation. And while it's start of the year, it typically starts in October, right? Or in the start of the quarter, whatever, before your Q4 of your last year. And oftentimes you're not done with the plan until the middle of your first quarter. right?
Mhm.
Because of those things. So that's what it feels like, what it looks like, and it's the start of, the treadmill for the year.
Yeah, so now let's take that and juxtapose how ayeQ handles this. So ayeQ is a complete go-to-market planning platform and optimization engine. So you're looking right now at the interface of ayeQ. You can see over here that we have an entire planning module that brings together all of the functions that Jerry just mentioned into a unified planning environment. We talk about how we're going to go to market, what we're selling, who we're selling to. We come up with our revenue streams. We look at our bookings targets. We establish our annual initiatives, our scorecards. And this is typically when during the annual planning season is the going in position of this is what our desired objectives are. Then we go through a process of modeling. Okay, great. If those are your objectives, let's put in the process that you're using. This is the end-to-end RevOps process. We're going to model each one of those revenue streams and come up with the performance end to end of what has to happen on each of those revenue streams for you to hit plan. We're going to look at how much capacity you need, how many sales reps, how many BDRs, and then we're going to come up with a set of RevOps goals. Now, what we're going to show you as you go through that model is the model may tell you you are not, given your current performance, you're not going to hit goal, right? So now what do we do, right? Because realistically, we want to be properly resourced for success for whatever number the board gives us. So when our models come back and say, based on your current performance, you're not going to hit that model target, okay, then we start to have a completely different conversation than what Jerry just described. Now we have a conversation of co-owning and co-architecting the solution. Does marketing need to do more? Does sales need to do more? Do we need to look at conversion rates? Do we need to look at marketing investment? And so right now, I'm going to, here we are. We have a plan. We've done our models. We're not going to show you how that's done. That's a different demo. But right now, our models have come back and said, you are going to miss this revenue stream. So the platform, this is a demo environment. So this is your main product, let's call it your main subscription-based product. Are we going to hit the platform SMB new logo revenue stream? So we're just having a conversation with Q. And Q comes back and says, you are currently not on track to hit the annual target. And then it's going to tell you why. What's your pipeline? What's the ayeQ prediction? And what is the shortfall? And then it's going to take it and it's going to break it down by quarter. What is on track? Which quarter is at risk? And which quarter is there a critical risk based on target, based on pipeline, based on the ayeQ prediction, which looks at your overall current performance, all of your stage conversion rates, all of your stage ages, which bumps up to stage velocity and says, nope, you're going to miss. So what are the key insights and drivers? Here's the deficit. Here's what we need to do for Q4 pipeline. Here are the model exclusions. So in this case, they have a lot of what we call double-aged or stuck pipeline. So this is your zombie pipeline that you hear about. And we're like, don't fool yourself. You have a ton of pipeline in there that is at least a significant portion of that is actually should be close lost. And then what are the next steps? So now we have some charts. We look at Q1. And then before we get into some of the how we're going to ask Q how we fix it, Jerry, what's your perspective on what I just outlined there?
Well, it's a common story, right? You're there, but it's typically trying to get to these answers would take weeks, and or you're driving some individual crazy because you got to have it faster than that. Once you realize you're off track, you don't want to take any time to figure out where the problem is and what you're going to go do about it. But also, it becomes a debate across organizations. Who's going to solve this problem, right?
Mhm.
And now we're collectively working in a system that's helping us figure it out together.
So another common thing as we're looking at our annual plan is, what does my sales and BDR capacity need to be for this revenue stream? And so you can see we have our capacity planning module that feeds into Q. Q's reading all of our models and all of our data. And it's telling us what our sales capacity needs to be and when we need to hire, what our BDR and qualification capacity needs to be, what our pipeline opportunity needs to be, and how many opportunities per quarter need to be fed into the pipeline. And then it summarizes it with, this is what the contribution expectation is from each of these channels. Now, that's sales capacity. So now I know how to size my organization. And I'll tell you, a lot of folks in FP&A are loving this, because this is the validation of the financial plan from the ground up. Now, if we want to look at, okay, what does our marketing contribution plan need to be, right? How much does marketing need to contribute to pipeline? And give me that MQL goal. And this is very different from what I've experienced in the past, which is your MQL goal is 20% more than last year. Well, that may be not enough. That may be too much. And by the way, it's totally dependent on the conversion rate of MQLs, right? So you can go more and have a lower conversion rate, or you can go fewer MQLs and have a higher conversion rate. Two different approaches. But Q is going to tell us what is the most impactful path forward. So it's going to tell us by quarter, what does marketing need to contribute to the pipeline in value and in number of opportunities. And then it's going to break it down by MQL targets, by quarter, by what we call qualification paths. So in this case, marketing is going to generate 212 MQLs. Some of them are going to go directly to sales. Some of them are going to be worked by BDRs. And the remainder are going to be generated by sales itself. So this is now marketing has its plan, right? And so now we look at how are those MQLs expected to turn into marketing source bookings contribution. And so now marketing has a number. And I love this because it completely shifts the discussion at the CMO or head of marketing level, where we're talking about contribution to bookings, which is a much more interesting business metric to the rest of the leadership team, who may or may not understand what that means from a lead, a follower, et cetera, type of metric. So Jerry, I'm going to stop there on annual planning, and I'm going to hop over to scenario analysis, but I want to pause there to get your takeaway.
Well, it's great. I mean, you answered the key questions that are going to be on people's minds, which is, where do we invest and how do we invest, and how do we balance that between sales and marketing to go get back on track to hit the plan. And so those are the questions that we're asking. And it's great to be able to type it in and the answer comes back to you from your RevOps partner, ayeQ from Q.
Yeah, and I'll just say, one of the other big tools in ayeQ that ayeQ is pulling from is this scenario analysis area. So we had asked it about a particular revenue stream here where there's projected to be a shortfall. And what ayeQ allows you to do is pull all of these different levers. Can I change my win rate? Can I change my cycle length? Can I bring in some more of that really aged pipeline? Or do I just have to increase my pipeline size? These are 4 very different levers to pull, and they each cost something different. And so this is where you can start to play around with this and, hey, if I can shorten my sales cycle, if I can just, take my win rate up 1.5 points, I'm still not going to get to my target. So now I'm going to have to increase my pipeline size. Then I start to get to my target. And if I have my cost per opportunity, then marketing, for those marketing folks on the call, you have the budget number you need to ask for. And this is the conversation that I think is so powerful, because it's not debating, well, can I hit 10.6 million? I really don't think I can hit 10.6 million. Well, you need to try harder. You need to hire more reps. It's not opinion anymore. It is, okay, if we're going to increase pipeline size, now how many more reps do I need to handle that pipeline size? Because I know I won't hit my bookings target with the pipeline we have today and our past pipeline generation performance.
Right.
So super powerful here. And I'm going to stop on that particular use case around annual planning and scenario analysis, because I think you've gotten a flavor of the power here. I am going to hop back over just real quick to
while you're doing that, Dana, I would just add, while annual planning typically is done at the start of the year, what ayeQ gives you the ability to do is really constantly and quickly measure against where you are, as you just showed, and things you could do. Too often that plan gets shelved and it's brought out once a month or once a quarter. And so ayeQ gives you the ability to really manage your business looking at the annual plan on a day-to-day basis.
Great. And I was looking over in the chat area. If you have a follow-up question that we want to ask you, please type it in there. I found one that I thought was really good. I am going to start a new chat here and we'll throw that in. And the question is, we'll see I have no idea what Q is going to come back with here. You like that one, Jerry?
Yeah, I do.
The number I've been given. How do I ask for more resources? So I have no idea. Your guess is as good as mine as to what Q is going to come up with for that, but we'll let it chew on it for a bit.
Great.
All right. So now let's look at resource optimization. So these are the questions that we populated with a couple questions around managing the business day to day. And Jerry, this one, which deals are most at risk of slipping this quarter, is the one you always bring up, and it's so key. But what I love that ayeQ came back with is, what are the 3 areas that are causing risk?
Right.
And so Q is identifying this double-aged pipeline. So that's those stuck opportunities that have been stuck more than twice as long as the ayeQ model target. It looks at quarterly pushes. How many times have opportunities been pushed out? And it looks at, in this case, the ayeQ predicted slips. So using our automated predictive models determine that a deal will likely close in a subsequent quarter versus what the rep is telling us. So with all of that analysis, and again, some of this is, you have to have a model underneath an AI agent to be able to even think about these questions. So it's identified 82 deals worth 3.6 million here are currently double-aged, and 57 deals are projected by ayeQ models to slip into Q3 or later. So if I look at these top 10 opportunities most at risk of slipping, it's giving us these opportunities from the largest amount of risk to the smallest, looking at the top 10 opportunities to focus on. So Jerry, each one of these is going to tell us what opportunity it was. So this would be the actual name of an opportunity. The owner would be the actual sales rep who owns the opportunity,
Right.
what stage it's in, and then importantly, why is it at risk? Why is Q saying that it's at risk?
And that's
so,
the key. That's
yep.
the key part, Dana, is as you look at it, understanding those different reasons and what's it finding, because it's measuring against a lot of things, right? It's the age and stage is one of those things, the number of times that it's pushed, the who, different pieces of the methodology. Who are you hearing what from? What's your level of engagement with the customer? These different things. And so coming back and giving you an indication of why, so that you can start to dig in and really ask the right questions and build a strategy with the rep to get that back on track.
Yep. And the focus, when we talk about productivity and efficiency of the growth engine, being able to use the bandwidth that we have in this priority order is so critical.
Right.
So it's going to, now it's identified these top 10 opportunities and the two key things that are causing those to be at risk. Now, this was the second question that you had asked me as we were preparing for this for this session. Okay, well, which marketing campaigns are driving actual revenue and not just leads? Okay, because this came from our sales leader, right? Q analyzes all of the campaigns, all of the responses, opportunities that have been generated on those responses, and how those opportunities have progressed through the pipeline and closed. So win rate, sales velocity, it's looking at all of that simultaneously. And so it's going to look at campaign sourced revenue. So what did marketing source from a response before the opportunity was created? And it also looks at mid-funnel revenue influenced. So how is marketing contributing to sales velocity? Because marketing has a huge impact on sales velocity. So these are the top marketing campaigns driving closed revenue. We're not looking at responses. We're not looking at clicks. We're not looking at form fills. We're looking at campaigns, what they directly sourced in revenue, what they influenced in the mid-funnel, how many responses, and this key insight, which I love, right? This is your highest performing campaign overall, demonstrating exceptional ability to both generate original opportunities and support deals during late stage negotiation. That's huge. And then it's likewise going to go through a set of campaigns and tell you this is where you need to focus your marketing spend to have greater impact on pipeline building, pipeline influence, pipeline velocity influence, and ultimately closed bookings and accelerated growth. So it's going to go through all of your campaigns, and it's going to give you this key takeaway here. Email marketing domination. That's your core email campaigns. It's going to identify which campaigns it's talking about. And it says, these represent your largest portion of directly sourced revenue. You've got high intent webinars. This particular webinar is extremely efficient, generating almost as much sourced revenue as email campaigns with less than half the total responses. So this is so important. Responses are a leading indicator, but they're only an interesting leading indicator. Right here shows us that it had less than half the total responses, but it generated almost as much revenue. So it tells us, hey, balance sourcing versus influence. Both of these are really impacting our overall bookings. So, Jerry.
Not all leads are created equal.
Correct.
So yeah, it's, tying those two things together again, just trying to think through if you've got, the time and the access to go figure those things out. There's just, even if you have it, there's no way you could get it back in seconds or minutes like this brings back to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so
And
dynamic.
one thing that I saw that in the chat here that I think is really interesting that we're going to use to stump Q here. Let's see if we can. Let's go back here. Let's see. Okay, it's come up with its first answer. Let's put the next question in here, which I see, which I love. This is an awesome question. It's a little paraphrased, but I love this question because it's talking about a little bit about what we just said, but it's adding the nuance of, I want to impact closed bookings this fiscal year. So it's not just about pipeline, it's about speed. So let's see what Q comes back with on that guy. All right. Let's go to our third scenario while Q checks on that. And that is, let's see.
The board meeting.
The board meeting, this guy. Okay, here it is. I have a board meeting in 48 hours. What should this quarter's forecast be? And how confident can I be in that number? Good question, huh, Jerry?
Yeah.
So so Q is going to tell you how it's going to approach this question. Then it's going to look at the executive summary for the Q2 forecast outlook. What's the target? What's closed won? What is ayeQ forecasting for the quarter? And what's the CRM weighted forecast? And then it's going to explain this because you want the explanation of why you're going to stand behind a particular number. And so why the CRM and ayeQ forecasts differ. And this is a really important point. As I mentioned, ayeQ looks at different revenue streams and models different revenue streams differently, right? So an enterprise platform new logo opportunity is a very different has a very different sales velocity than a platform upsell into the current customer base, right? Lower win rate, longer deal length, probably a higher average deal size. And that is a very different set of metrics than I have a platform upsell. I'm upselling a 10K deal into our biggest customer. The ayeQ weighted forecast, and I love the fact that Q recognizes this, is that the CRM applies the same weighting to any opportunity based on the stage it's in. So it's going to give an enterprise platform new logo deal that is sitting in proposal a different weighting than a platform upsell deal sitting in proposal. And we all know those are not the same conversion rates.
Right.
So that's what ayeQ is using to weight the forecast, is it's looking at what kind of opportunity it is and how those opportunities behave. Much, much more accurate. So then it's going to go through, it's going to look at the delta, standard CRM probabilities, weight these open renewals conservatively, right? They're looking at renewals and creating and applying the same weighting metric, even though that we know renewals have exceptionally high win rates, right? 98% in later stages. So this is one reason there's a delta, and then it'll look at the next reason for a delta. And it's, again, it's all around the limitations that CRMs have on looking at opportunity behavior. So why you can be confident in the ayeQ forecast. This gives you all of the reasons why you should trust the ayeQ forecast, and then it gives you a visual look and comparison across what ayeQ is saying, what your CRM is saying, and what's actually been closed won already. So this is a lot more information than you're going to get exporting opportunities to a spreadsheet and asking your reps whether they think they're going to close or not. And so, Jerry, I'm stepping all over your toes. Tell us about that.
Well, there's a variety of pieces. One thing I keep coming back to with these scenarios is, how does it compare to what we do today, which is, whether you're preparing for, an internal leadership team call or the board, it's a scramble, right? Because you can't get exactly what you're looking for out of your source system. So you're trying to dump it into spreadsheets or BI or something and manually go through that. And the other key piece that you talked about, Dana, is that all of those systems, look at everything as being created equal. So you called it out, a new logo versus a cross-sell, upsell. Those are very different conversion rates and timelines, right? One's going to move much more quickly through your sales process at a much higher close rate. Typically has a lower value, right? And so we tend to weight things on value. So we like the large new logo deals. If we can get that large new logo deal done, then we can have a bigger impact. Well, that's great, and you should consider that, and ayeQ and askQ will consider that as appropriate. But in the near term, to make up a number, three fast moving smaller deals could give you the same thing. But a CRM or dashboards on top of a CRM they're going to equate those as this is your pipeline and it's units and dollars and that's it. And conversion rate, the average conversion rate across new and expansion or your core product line versus your secondary product line, all of those things get weighted and looked at in the same way. They just get kind of bundled in and averaged. And so this gives you all that revenue stream nuances. And then Q looks at all that to help you point in time. Like you have a specific question. We said, what do we need to do to make this year? What do we need to do right now to make this year? And that it'll take into account where you are in this year. That's a different answer in Q1 than it is in Q3. And it's going to take into account the learnings of what have happened over the course of that year while you've made that plan or moving against that plan. And so all of that it's kind of unimaginable, quite honestly, Dave, and to do it in the world that most people are living in today.
It is. And when we started this conversation, Jerry, I was like, these answers are surprising even me. That, having all of this data together and the power that AI has when they have the infrastructure, that's the most critical thing.
The one thing that I would say on top of that is this is surprising to us. It's sitting on demo data, but what our customers are telling us is it's surprisingly accurate to them in the recommendations that they're getting out of their data in their situations, right? Relative to their revenue streams, their conversion rates, the evolution of that over the course of the year. As they ask Q these questions, they're getting answers that they can really go act on. And we all know the next step behind AI is what does a human do with it? There's some validation, there's some confirmation, and then there's take action. And they're able to move to that action very quickly. The recommendations that come back from Q make sense to them, and they're validating those and they're moving forward with them.
Yeah, and I just want to pause there, Jerry, just to give you an anecdote here. I was talking to one of our sales leaders and one of our customers who is working in ayeQ, and about a month and a half ago, we'd had a conversation, and we were looking at forecast accuracy. How accurate are all the forecasts by different reps, by different revenue streams, by forecast category? And we have a forecast accuracy dashboard that breaks all of that down. ayeQ snapshots forecast data every day. So the data infrastructure underneath it is much richer than a CRM would track as a transactional system, right? ayeQ is an analytical system. But he said, we were looking at forecast accuracy, and the question he had was, I'm looking at, this is showing me how much of my commit and upside are closed over the course of the quarter, but I think we have opportunities that are created and won in quarter. And so I was talking to, what's that?
Everybody does. You have some of that, right? 100%.
Right? They're the bluebirds. And so I was showing him ayeQ, and I said, let's look at that question and see if Q can answer it for us. And so typed in, I think I have a lot of opportunities that are created and closed in the same quarter. Is that true? And Q comes back and says, it's absolutely true. In fact, 32.8% of your closed bookings last quarter were from opportunities that were created and closed in the same quarter.
Wow,
took 5 seconds. So I mean, those things that when we're working with our customers, it's like they're just learning the power of what Q can answer themselves. So, okay, sorry, back on track.
That's a great story. Thanks.
Yeah. So we're sitting here, we're preparing for the board meeting. Typical question, where are we at risk of missing the annual plan? So this is what your board is going to want to know. And Q will give you an answer that breaks it down by areas of risk. So the core risk, that's that pesky revenue stream, platform SMB new logo. So we know that's the issue. And what Q is giving us is it's this logical progression of how to present this to a board. So what are the drivers of risk? Pipeline and deal size compression. Those are the two things that are driving that, which is really interesting. Again, remember when I showed you that scenario analysis, which lever should you pull? Q is telling you which lever to pull. You have to do pipeline. It's not going to be enough for you to just improve your conversion rate from stage 2 to stage 3.
Look too, Dana, how it goes to the deal size compression. If you're not at what you expected from a plan perspective, what you set up for plan for deal size, you're behind 18% in deal size, and that's huge, right? So because there are going to be people that look at this and go, hey, we're not that far off in the transactional numbers that we were targeting. So how are we that far behind in this? And so it's calling out those things as well. And and not to say, again, that you can't go figure that out another way, but you figured that out in a collection of other pieces of information in seconds.
And again, I just want to go back to the fact that this is running on a platform that has your revenue architecture and has your models. So each revenue stream has an identified target deal size. There's no way your CRM could come up with this answer because it doesn't have a model.
Right.
The dependency risk. So here's the enterprise deal concentration. That's 5.48 million in Q4. So it says, okay, on paper, platform enterprise new is projected to finish slightly ahead of plan. However, this projection relies on a highly concentrated pipeline bubble in Q4. So then it goes, how much have we won, what percentage, and what's our exposure? If we wanted to dig into this, we could say which one of these are at risk, where should we focus? Then it looks at structural risks. So it says our year-over-year growth rate is flat, which is off track. So if we compare this period so far this year to this period so far last year, we are not on track with our growth rate based on our annual target. Our pipeline coverage is a risk. So it's at 2.7 versus a target of 3x. Pipeline quality is slipping. So here's that drift, Jerry, that we talk about, that if you can identify the drift early, you have enough time to course correct before you have a miss.
Right.
So pipeline quality is slipping. Your pipeline quality is 72.8% against a target of 80%. Now, how many folks on the call have a target pipeline quality baked into their CRM? I would probably guess 0. I might be wrong, but I've never seen that tracked in a CRM. Okay, so summary chart where the offset is occurring. So now we have a chart here. It's showing us where the annual target is, what the prediction is. And then I asked, hey, give me a board ready summary of our current position and the top risks. So now it gives me the full storyline for the board. Now, I am sure, just like anybody interacting with an AI agent like this is going to get you, 80, 85, maybe 90% there, which is going to save an incredible amount of time.
Right.
So it's going to show you the summary, the macro picture, the tactical outlet, the top 3 risks to the annual plan, and some of our operational health indicators, because again, Q is also reading all of our RevOps best practices, all of our go-to-market best practices. That's how it understands what a board cares about, is because it has all of that in its knowledge base. So here's our operational health indicators, and then some summary visualizations. And, if we want to come up with some other charts, just ask away, and all these charts are created on the fly.
And
so I'm going to
with each chart there's a icon up in the right corner. You click on that in that chart, then you can just move that into your copy it and move it into your PowerPoint or whatever tool you're using. So awesome.
Yep. Yeah, because the assumption is that when you're preparing for your board report or your board presentation, these are the things you're going to want to export into your PowerPoint or some other PowerPoint builder.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so let's see, where are we? We've done annual planning, we've done pipeline and spend optimization, we've done board preparation. Okay, let's see how those answers are. I have no idea what this is going to come back with, so your guess is as good as mine. All right, and before we go into that, I want to look at, I see, let's pick one more question. How are we doing on time, Jerry? I think we're okay.
We've got 8-10 minutes.
Okay, perfect. All right, so hold on. Okay, I really like this question because I think I've heard a lot of sales leaders do this type of analysis in ayeQ, and because it's de-identified data, nobody's going to be hurt. So here's the question. All right, let's see if we stumped Q. What is it?
My name's not going to come up here, right?
Yeah, I said it's de-identified.
Okay.
Okay, so let's see. The first question was, if I can't hit the number I've been given, how do I ask for more resources? So to request more resources when you cannot hit your targets, you can build a clear data-backed business case directly within the platform. By demonstrating the mathematical gap between your goals and your current capacity, you can turn a subjective request into an objective operational plan. Here's how to build and present your business case. So it tells you where to go in ayeQ to model the gap in our sandbox models. Tells you where to navigate, how to adjust, how to look for projection shortfalls. Then it says, determine your exact staffing needs. So once you have your sandbox done, you can navigate to capacity planning and you can review your capacity pages for both sales reps and BDRs. And then you'll know what your headcount requirements are. Then you can present your case for executive review. Use these insights. So Jerry, like, I have not asked that question before, obviously. Thoughts on the answer?
Yeah, I think it's, again, it goes into levels of detail and giving you the foundation of where it's coming from so that you've really got it. So it's easy to go ask for money, right? We need more pipeline, so we need more money, or we need more sales, so we need more sales capacity, so we need money. But to be able to really quickly get at the level of what do you need of each, and how are you going to use that? Why do you need that to do that? So, I mean, as a part of this, right, it's one thing to go, hey, I need this much money, but the next question you've got here is, so what are you going to do with it, right? What campaigns should I run to close bookings in the fiscal year, which we got into a little bit ago, and so yeah, it's with every thought partner like this agentic queue. The questions that you ask and the answers that you get, they provoke another question, right? Which is today, that's, you throw at your RevOps team a couple of questions. Hey, this is going on. Why? What's causing that? So they go answer that question and they come to you, and they're smart people, so they go to think through a few more things and they bring that answer and some thoughts, and they've got some of their own insights and they've run some statistics on their own and they share that with you. But that's just going to prompt you to ask some more questions, right? That's the dialogue. So now they've got to go back and figure that out, right? And so the speed at which you can really get back on track if you're behind, which we all find ourselves all the time behind. We're asked to do more growth with less resources all the time, and the headwinds in the market shift and change all the time, and being able to constrict the amount of time that it takes to come up with an adjusted plan and what to do next, the value of that's got to be huge to go-to-market leaders.
Yeah, and follow on to that was our next question that we entered in here, the Stump Q question path. What campaign should I run to impact closed won bookings this fiscal year? So let's see what it comes up with. So they're heavily run by 3 types of initiatives: targeted email, interactive hosted webinars, and high intent content. To maximize closed won bookings before the end of the fiscal year, you should focus your budget and efforts on the following high performing campaign categories. So high nurture campaigns, double down on this, particularly on mid to late stage accounts currently in your sales pipeline. Why? Because you asked it to help you close deals this year.
Right.
Hosted webinars. Yep. So it's identifying the particular top performing campaign, how much it brought in won bookings. Focus on middle of funnel topics such as live case studies, deep dive product demonstrations, or interactive Q&As that help active opportunities move through discovery and proposal stages faster. And then it talks about high intent inbound content. So white papers and web forms. So it's telling us increase paid and social promotion for your top performing white papers for high intent leads that convert quickly. Again, it's looking it's looking at the speed here, right? Because we asked it, what can we close this year? And then direct target account outreach paired with events yields highly concentrated bookings. So I think that's a great response. I'm very pleased with that response.
Quick time check, Dana. We got about 5 minutes.
Okay. All right. Who are my best and worst performing reps? Here you go. best performing, lowest performing, and this is by closed won bookings. I am sure we could do this by conversion rate. We could do it by sales
Yeah,
velocity.
we didn't really, we could have asked the question by who has the best conversion rates. And if they're not a top performer, now we've got to go, hey, we should invest in that rep, right? They convert high. Let's get some pipeline in there. So,
Yep.
Yeah, perfect.
All right. So let's see, Jerry. Thank you for keeping me on track here because I get excited about this stuff.
Absolutely.
All right. So how much time do we have?
We got about 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Okay. So if you have any other questions, we're done stumping Q. But if you have any other questions, I see a few questions that have come in. Maybe we can take a couple, but I just can't emphasize enough that the reason Q is able to ask these questions and able to be a thought partner for an executive for go-to-market is because it's got all of this intelligence, got the full rich analytics environment. It's pulled in data from all of these sources. It's got the best practices. It's got the models. And that is what has set up AI for ayeQ on top of the ayeQ platform to be so effective. So I say the AI is the frosting on the cake, but the cake is what took us so many years to perfect and optimize and aggregate. All right. Let's see. I want to answer this one.
Before you jump into one question, I just want to make it really clear for everybody that this sits essentially on real-time data as well. So it's not a picture of what you've done. It's not, you're not going to get into debates of that we run into all the time, which is the data's changed since the snapshot you took, et cetera. And so I think that's key for people to understand as well.
Yeah, this data is refreshed every day and on the fly. Right. So no more pulling out spreadsheets and trying to recalculate, LTV to CAC or something like that. And a related question that is, how long does this implementation take? Which is something we really didn't even touch on. Because we have built this whole platform that we call RevOps automation, the implementation of the platform takes days. And so this is, the ayeQ platform is a forcing function to clean any underlying data in the transactional systems, and the implementation of the platform itself and turning on all of the models and the analytical dashboards, that is a 5 to 10 day process, which is really I think the value of RevOps automation is nobody has to do this themselves. It would take 12 to 18 months to even get close to what it's taken us years to already build that you can just turn on. All right. Well, thank you all for being here. We would love to talk to you about ayeQ. There are a variety of ways to get in touch with us. You can visit our website, aye-q.com. You can email us, hi@ayeQ.com. You can set up a time with one of our RevOps advisors at our Calendly link, which is ayeQ. And we'd love to chat with you. There are a variety of ways to get involved and move your business forward. That's what we are all about here, is accelerated growth at high efficiency and predictability, and getting you there as soon as possible. Thanks everyone for joining us, and we hope to talk to you soon.